Hi, I'm Vanessa Schmid, curator at the New Orleans Museum of Art of this magnificent exhibition, the Orléans Collection, which is on view here, or the Orleans Collection, which is on view here at NOMA until January 27th. So we're in the last 3 weeks, the exciting last crescendo of the exhibition, which has been on view for 3 months here. The exhibition, as those of you who know, explores the extraordinary collection of Philippe II, Duke of Orléans, who is the namesake of New Orleans, and we've mounted this exhibition in celebration of our city's namesake for the tricentennial of New Orleans. In this particular room, we are here in the Dutch cabinets. So these were the private Dutch cabinets, and as you see in the exhibition space, we've constructed a smaller, more intimate setting, which mimics exactly how the cabinet and these paintings were on view at the Palais Royal in Paris, the Duke of Orleans' court and his palace. These private cabinets were only available through a small pocket door. So if you went to see these private cabinets, you were invited. And these were certainly places where the Duke also entertained his private parties. They really were another side to the ceremonial court life of the grander parts of the palace. These were the more private areas. And you'll notice the works behind me that the paintings are on a smaller scale. These are very delicate works, jewel-like in the way that they're painted, and they have incredibly detailed surfaces, which makes that when you appreciate these paintings, you want to go up close, you want to examine their details. And so the intimate setting, the smaller gallery space, as it was also at the Palais Royal, encourages this close look in. That is how the works are the best to be appreciated. And I'd like to take a really in-depth look at one of the absolute masterpieces in this room. This painting here, which is extraordinary in its detail. The painter's brushwork was called invisible brushwork, meaning that in some places you can't even see that there's a brushstroke because the technique is that detailed. This painting is here in New Orleans from Vienna, Austria. It's in the Royal Collection of the Princely Collection of Liechtenstein. So it's an extraordinary loan, an extraordinary thing to bring to New Orleans. It's painted by an artist named Gerard Douw, is how it's pronounced. He worked in the Netherlands, the present day Netherlands, in the 1600s. This painting was produced in about the 1650s. And so what we're looking at, and you can see just by gesturing with my hands, it's incredibly intimate scale. And it is on its own wall as a masterpiece, just to be appreciated by the visitor in its extraordinary, infinite details. We have a window, and notice how the painting is literally in the shape of a window. You are literally have a window onto a fictive painted world. And who's leaning out of the window is a musician, a violinist. The violin is gorgeously described in its textures and the sheen of its wood, and it projects out past the windowsill into our space. Note the music book and the leaves of the pages of the book, how they're curling over and catching the light. This is, in fact, a self-portrait. We know from Gerard Douw's other paintings what he looked like. And so what he's doing here is showing himself, the painter, as a musician. And in that way, how does a painter, like a musician, create a fictive world, create a mood, transport you to another place? And that's exactly what he's trying to communicate. And then look in the detailed areas back here. If you can see, and you can see it only best in person in the galleries, is a workshop. See here, there's a painting, an unfinished painting on an easel. So that's the artist's workshop. So we see the artist as musician in front of his workshop, which is in the background. But then there's the last element. The last element is the windowsill. Look at the windowsill. It is, see the shades of gray, and see these lovely children playing games with a goat. It's a little bit dark, but you'll see it when you come see the painting. This is a relief sculpture. And so he's reproduced a sculpture. But what has he done? He's literally covered the sculpture with a carpet. The carpet is in extraordinary details, and this is a carpet that would have been from Turkey. Of course, the Dutch was a great maritime empire, and the carpet makes reference to the trade with the East, but most importantly, the technique, the folded carpet and all of those, the texture is a hallmark of this artist's extraordinary detailed style. But let's get back to what the carpet does. It is covering, literally, a work of sculpture. This sculpture was made by a fellow artist of the Netherlands who was the Netherlands' most famous Dutch sculptor working in Rome. And so the painter is quoting a work of art from a sculptor and literally covering it. What he's doing is making reference to this debate, a debate that has existed since the beginning of time, of artists working, that asks, who are the better artists, sculptors or painters? Sculptors say, I produce a physical object that inhabits the real world. I'm the better artist. I give the real world a product. A painter says, but I paint an entire fictive world and transport people into an imaginary world. I give them a world. So this is kind of the way, the joking way sculptors and painters would joke about who was the better artist. It was called the paragone, actually. You can look it up. Spelled P-A-R-A-G-O-N-E, the paragone. So what is he doing here? The wit is extraordinary. The artist as musician, lulling you into a different world, and his art reigns supreme, right, over sculpture and everything else. And of course, the literal window of the shape of the painting brings you into his fictive, extraordinary world. This is just one of the many ways these paintings in this Dutch cabinet, in their incredible details and glorious fine techniques, reward close looking. You must come see these masterpieces, and we've got until January 27th.